The widow did as Elijah commanded. She made him a small cake and then returned to make what she could for her son and herself. When she reached into her jar, there was enough. When she reached in again, there was more. And the jar remained supplied, as did her jug of oil, until that day when the rains began to fall and the back of the drought was broken. The widow of Phoenicia had tapped into an endless supply. Like Elijah, you and I are sent to the poor and the powerless of our day, and especially in these dangerous times. We have been sent to proclaim to them in word and in deed that the God of blessing has not run away from them, but is closer now than they might think. God does not forget the poor and the powerless. To those in need, God sends God's people. But that commission to stand with the poor comes with a challenge. That challenge is well expressed by the Reverend Heidi Newmark, who writes, "Those of us who are part of the white middle-class church need to be careful that the poor do not become a backdrop for our charity. We must take care that quotas and programs and conferences on women, children, and poverty do not become a forum for displaying our goodness and compassion, while the church goes about other business dry-eyed and silent. I need to be careful that the poor are not the backdrop for my own good deeds. Pastors, priests, and official prophets, mostly white, are cast as miracle-working Elijahs for the poor, mostly not white. It's not only racist and wrong, it's impossible. Most of us can't keep up mega miracles for long. Rather than a backdrop for our own good works, the poor and the powerless are one of the prime reasons we exist as the people of God. We are here to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim release to the captives and the recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. We are here to bear witness to the God who has claimed us as God's own and who still executes judgment and justice for the oppressed, gives food to the hungry, lifts up those who are bowed down, watches over the stranger and the alien, and upholds the widow and the orphan. We have been called to join God in the ancient yet ever new work of lifting up the lowly and filling the hungry with good things. Ministering to the poor and the powerless, bringing and embodying the good news of God's love and care. That's one of the principal reasons we, the church, exist. That is why our faithful stewardship of the gifts God has given us is so critically important. We sometimes like to fancy ourselves as though we were as bad off as the widow of our story. We point to our diminished accounts and investments, and we want to plead poverty. We fall into the trap of seeing what others have and judging ourselves as poor or underprivileged. We see our jars as nearly empty when in truth they are abundantly full. Like God's people from the time of Abraham, we have been blessed so that the peoples of the world might be blessed. To deny the blessing is to deny the one who blesses. To demean the gift is to throw it back in the face of the one who gives it. God calls us to great and wonderful things. God provides us generously with the resources we need to do what God calls us to do. Times of trial and testing, like droughts of every kind, can expose new discoveries, new opportunities, new moments of grace in which we can partner with God in exciting and extraordinary ways. The opportunities, like the treasures beneath Lake Okeechobee and the hidden dwellings of Mesa Verde, were always there. They just needed a little help in making themselves known. The recent economic difficulties of our nation and the world have reminded us, as if we needed reminding, that the poor and the oppressed are always around us. The opportunity to bring good news to the poor is ever before us. New and much needed ministries of love and grace call out to us. Turner N. Quinard reminds us, all the difference in the world exists between those who recognize and willingly accept their stewardship, realizing the gracious and bountiful and loving gifts of God, and those who set out with the attitude of putting a fence around as much of the universe as possible and saying, "This is mine." It isn't. And nothing we can do will make it so. We serve a God who has an endless supply. We draw from jars that are abundantly full. We have been called to bring good news to the poor. We have been blessed to be a blessing for now and evermore.